Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar hosted by Vimedo. Today's session is centered around a fascinating and deeply relevant topic, that is Ritucharya for the workplace, aligning employees' health with nature's rhythm. In our fast paced professional lives, we often forget that our bodies and minds are still deeply connected to the cycles of nature. Ritucharya will help us understand how seasonal changes affect our health and, more importantly, how we can adapt our lifestyle and workplace habits to stay balanced, healthy, and productive all year round. We have an insightful session lined up for you with Ritu Kapoor ma'am, who will guide us through ways to incorporate these time tested principles into our everyday work life. Welcome, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Bhavna. Uh, Good afternoon to all of you. And myself, I'm Ritu Kapoor. I'm from Bangalore, and I've been working for Vimedo for doing sessions for them for quite some time now. And I welcome you all to this excellent topic today. We actually wanted to do something for you because we just celebrated Earth Day sometime back on the 21st of April, and so we wanted to do something which was related to nature. Okay, so that's how we came up with this theme, where we found that it would be really helping out the employees. Why that would be so, I would share with you shortly when we start the session. So, to tell you a little bit about myself, I am a clinical dietitian and also a nutritionist. I'm also a chakra meditation practitioner and a teacher, and I'm also a yoga teacher. So, I work, whenever I work with my clients, I work on an holistic level, taking into account all the issues that they are facing, all the problems that they are having, and so that we can make their life and their health better. So that is the way I work. So I have been working for the last almost 15 years in this field, and surely I'm looking forward to doing this session for all of you. And we'll start shortly now. We'll just wait for another 2 minutes, and then we'll start. In the meantime, since we have a few participants here, would you be, kind enough to tell me as to what are your expectations from this session? Can anybody tell me that? Nobody has any expectations from the session? Yeah, Mr. Praveen, do you want to speak something?
Hello.
Yes, yes, Mr. Praveen.
Yeah. So of course, the expectation. So relatively, it's a new topic for us. We would definitely want to see as an holistic health approach how the practices and under Ayurveda and the things like that can help us balance the overall health. That's a kind of intent that I have through this study program.
Okay, great, great. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, I'll start sharing my screen now so that we can start the session. So, you all will know that the topic for today is Ritucharya for the workplace. Okay, and how we can use that principle for aligning employee health with nature's rhythms. Okay, so that is what we are intending to do today. Okay. So in this session, our main aim is to make you understand about the etymology of the word Ritucharya. What does word Ritucharya mean? Okay, and what is there is a concept of Uttarayan. I believe most of you would have heard about Uttarayan and Dakshinayan. What do they mean, and how is the Ritucharya related to that? What are the tridoshas, and and how is it related to our physical body? The significance of Ritucharya for our well-being, how we can use it in that way, very simply, aligning ourselves with the nature. Specifications of each Ritu according to Ayurveda, and also Ritu Sandhi. What does it mean? How we can use that? Your key takeaways from this meeting today, and question and answers, of course, that I'll be giving a lot of time to. Okay, so in my profession, in my experience, I have always seen that in today's life, what we call as lifestyle diseases are mainly affected, uh, are mainly on the rise, I would say. Why? Because we are not aligning ourselves first with the daily circadian rhythm, and the second is with the nature's rhythm or the Ritucharya. We practically, especially in a place like Bangalore, we are living our lives, more or less according to the way we want to live, and not following the changes that happen. In we usually find these days that the markets are flooded with almost all types of vegetables throughout the year. There are no defining periods when we say that okay, this only this particular thing will come, or this particular vegetable or this particular fruit comes, so that we can only consume that in that particular phase. So these are the changes that, because of we say markets have opened up. There are consumption, the consumerism that is happening. Because of that, we do not define as to what is the seasonal variation now. So we would just try to understand that from this session. Now there is a ancient, age old saying or shloka that comes, Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande. Now this has been taken from Yajurveda. What does it mean? That whatever there is in the environment is also there in the human body. We are nothing, but we are a part, our body is part of that environment, an extension of that. So the concept of this Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande, it had led, appreciating changes in the human body according to seasons, and regimens were formulated at that particular time. And if you ask what is the time that Ayurveda goes back to, we really don't know. Okay, but the information or the knowledge has been passed on from one generation to the next generation, and it is almost like it is inculcated in us right from our childhood, when we are brought up by our parents, our grandparents. So these seasonal regimens that were made at that time, their main aim was to prevent diseases which can happen due to seasonal derangement of doshas. Now, what are doshas? We would also be understanding that during this session. Hence, being in sync with Ritucharya was one of the ways of being healthy at all times, which the principle which simply our grandparents and parents used to follow, but somewhere we have lost touch with that. Now, when we try to understand what is Ritu, is actually made, Ritucharya is made from two words. One is Ritu and one is Charya. Okay, so what does Ritu means? The word meaning of that. Ritu basically stands for Dvaumasa. Dvaumasa means 2 months. So if you see an year of 12, which is comprising of 12 months, if we divide that, then we get six divisions out of that. So we basically have 6 seasons which have been divided, each one which is comprising of 2 months. Okay, so this is very much unlike the Western seasons that we have come to follow, that is winter, spring, summer, and autumn, which are only four. So according to the Hindu tradition, there are 6 seasons. That is late winter, that is called as Shishira, Vasanta season, that is spring, Grishma, that is summer, Varsha Ritu, that is rainy season, Sharad, which is autumn, and Hemant Ritu, that is early winter. So winter itself is divided into two, and then we also have the rainy season coming in between. And what is the meaning? What is the meaning of the word Charya? Now, Charya basically means, it is Niyama Aparityaga. What is Niyama Aparityaga means? That is a rule which you will not be giving up. So there are certain rules which are followed for food habits, for physical activities, and a lot of other parameters which we will be seeing today. So these are not given up when we are undergoing a seasonal regime, and this is what makes us or keeps us healthy. And the definition of Ritucharya, which if you see according to the Ashtanga Hridaya Sutram, it is given that there are some changes, special changes which occur in the environment and humans, and therefore there are certain food and exercises which are to be followed, which are specifically told for each Ritu, and this process is called as Ritucharya. So being in accordance with that is what is Ritucharya. Now let's understand, how does Ritucharya work? Where does the strength for this thing comes? The seasonal changes. Now we know seasons are governed by the movement of the earth around the sun, okay, in its elliptical orbit. So we define it in two different stages, that is Uttarayan and Dakshinayan. Uttarayan is when the sun is moving up the horizon, and Dakshinayan is when sun is moving down the horizon. So the first three Ritus, if you see, that is that we start from the Shishira Ritu. Shishira Ritu, that is late winter, then Vasant, that is the spring season, and the Grishma or the summer. They are together called as the Adana Kala, which comes under the Uttarayan, or the tilt of the northern hemisphere of the earth is away from the sun. And the next three which come, which is the Varsha Ritu, the Sharad Ritu, and the Hemant Ritu, they are together called as the Visarga Kala. Why it is called, that also you will understand. And this is the Dakshinayan movement, that is the tilt of the southern hemisphere of the earth away from the sun. So with these changes, you would find that there is a gradual decrease of balam, or what we call it, what is the physical strength or the immunity of the body due to the seasonal effect. During Uttarayan, there will be a gradual decrease and a gradual increase in the bal or the strength during Dakshinayan. Now, when we are talking about the bal or the physical strength or immunity, we should understand here, see, it's so beautifully it would be going according to the season change. When you see Uttarayan here, we start with the Shishira Ritu till Grishma Ritu. You will see that the bal is strong in this winter season, the late winter season. The bal or the strength, physical strength will be stronger, and gradually it will go towards moderate and towards less in the summer or the Grishma Kala. What we are going through now, what is going to happen is starting now is the Grishma Kala or the summer season, and from the rainy season also it remains as less, and gradually it will become more moderate and then strong again in the Hemant Ritu. Now, basically, there are changes which happen in the body. So, what are these three changes that happen? We will discuss that. So, whenever the season changes happen, there is actually one is the chaya. Chaya is the starting of the process of change in the doshas. That stage is called as chaya when it just starts, that is accumulation. Okay. Then is prakopa. Prakopa means it takes a harder form, and that is what is called as aggravation of the doshas which happen in the seat made their seat of the dosha. And then is the prashama. Prashama is when the dosha they come back to normalcy after derangement, or the pacification which is shown in this table down. So if you see in the late winter or the shishira season, the kapha dosha will be accumulating more. So there is an accumulation of kapha which will start in the late winter season. And when the spring season comes, the aggravation of kapha happens. That means most respiratory issues will happen during this process, this season. Okay. And then by the time the summer comes, the kapha it starts melting. So because of the heat, the kapha starts melting and it leads to pacification or coming down of the kapha dosha. But side by side, as the kapha dosha comes down, it also leads to the accumulation of the vata dosha. We will just understand in a later slide as to what these doshas are. But along with this, accumulation starts, which gets more aggravated during the rainy season, and also in the autumn season you will find that the vata dosha also subsides, it comes down. But by the time it is aggravating the vata dosha, the accumulation of the pitta dosha starts happening in the rainy season, which gets aggravated during the autumn season, and in the winter season it starts coming down. So we would find that the winter season is the one which will be the strongest for digestion purpose, if you see, because here the pitta dosha comes down, the vata dosha will not be there, and the kapha dosha also will not be there. So that's why this is the season where the digestive power would be the maximum. And if you just relate it with your own body right now, you will be able to understand that winter is this time when you are able to digest almost everything that you eat, and there would be very less chances of having a digestive issue during the winter season. Now let's try to understand a little bit about what are these doshas. So these doshas, I have already told you, these are three doshas. Each body is made up of only a combination and a variation, permutation, combination of these three different characteristics or doshas. This is the software of our body. That is the vata, pitta and kapha. Now, how are these things formed? They are formed by the combination of the Panch Mahabhutas, which we all know as, which are the five different elements which combine together to make our body. And different combinations of all these things, all the Panch Mahabhutas will be giving rise to the doshas, and each body therefore will be a different combination of these three doshas. Okay, so that will be what is making the physiology of a body when we are in a stable state, and also it would cause the diseases when the doshas they are not stable, or they go up and down because of the seasonal changes or because of the way we consume food. Now the vata dosha is more related to movement. Okay, so it is related to movement, so it would be causing the acts of respiration. So the seat of vata, if you say, it would be the chest area, okay, where the respiration happens. The peristaltic movements in the intestine also is of vata. Excretion of waste, so anything that moves is because of vata. Excretion of waste from the body is also vata. Movement of nerve impulses in the nerves and initiation to do any work is because of Vata. Pitta is what is responsible for the metabolism or the digestion or the changes that take place in the food in our body. So these are more related to your digestion, metabolism, breaking down of larger food particles into smaller one, and also the one which are absorbed in our body. The kapha is because it is the one which is binding, causes the function of binding together or forming structures together. So this is responsible for energy storage in the body, protection in our body, bonding molecules to form larger molecules, and this would be responsible for immunity, synovial joints, fluids that are there in the joints, that is also formed because of that. The mucus that is present in the digestive tract is also kapha. Adipose tissue which stores fat is also kapha, and it also leads to stability of our body and mind, because this is what is causing the binding together of different forms. Now, as a consequence, what happens is, because of the changes in the season, we can find that the vata, it accumulates in the intestines during the Grishma Ritu or the summer season, and accumulates in the lower back region in the Varsha Ritu or the rainy season, and finally it becomes normal in the autumn season. This is just in relation to vata I'm talking here, how it can change in different seasons and where it can cause issues. So when these doshas they get deranged, the diseases can take place, they can happen in the various organs or the channels which we are called as srotas in the body, and it can affect the particular individual. Now each individual is different, and therefore the doshas will be behaving in a different manner in each individual. Now for example, they can cause bronchitis in winter because it would be more in the respiratory region, stomach infections in monsoon, or also, for bringing back these doshas to normalcy, we have to be following certain regimens. Now here we will be seeing as to what it is, how it is significant from what with each season that we have. The 6 seasons we are going to see now. So what happens, and it is so naturally, logically done. See, in the Hemant Ritu or the Shishira Ritu, we have seen the Bala is the strongest, and that is why we are handling both of them together. Hemant Ritu is the early winter, Shishira Ritu is late winter. Early winter will start from mid-November to mid-January. That will be the 2-month period, and Shishira is mid-January to mid-March. So then what happens is, actually there is coldness in the environment, and this coldness in the environment will cause the vasoconstriction of the blood vessels in the periphery. Now because of vasoconstriction in the blood vessels in periphery region, the core will be getting more blood supply, and because of which the secretion of digestive juices will be more, and digestion becomes stronger, and the hunger is also more in the winter season. That is why if you speak to some of the diabetics, they will tell you that usually during winters it becomes difficult to control their diabetes, okay, because the hunger factor increases. Also the supply is more in the core area, and because of which the vasoconstriction in the periphery area, there is a difference in the blood circulation also, because of which the sugar regulation gets deranged. Cold and dry veins which happen during in the skin leads to also to the contraction of the muscles, and which also leads to heat generation in the body. So, and that is why applying oil moisturizer in such seasons, it makes sense, because it gives more heat. It would, if you one does any massage during this season, it is always helpful for the body. Also, on a lighter note, if you want to take it, wine or rum, it will increase the peripheral blood supply. So it is a good season to consume these beverages during that season. And according to Ayurveda, if you go, the lavan, that is salty, amla, sour, and unctuous. Unctuous is oily food. They are heavy to digest, and hence it will be apt for this particular season because the digestive power is more. And but also we have seen that towards the end of it, accumulation of kapha dosha begins, okay, in the shishira ritu, because of which there can be chances of asthma, cold, diabetes, as I told you, atherosclerosis to happen more during this particular time. So if you talk to me about what should be the lifestyle during this, so application of oil, staying in warm and less windy places, warm clothes, we all know we have to use that during that season. And also too much of spicy food, bitter food, astringent quality food is to be avoided or eaten less, because this would be disrupting the digestive power at that particular time, which is already strong. And also avoiding sleeping during daytime is what is recommended according to these two season types. Now let's move on to the next season, which is the Vasant Ritu, which will be from mid-March to mid-May. So we are actually in Vasant right now, going ahead now, heading towards Grishma Ritu. So spring season, we know it is more of sun during that phase that will be there. So also because of sunlight being more, the human serotonin or the happiness hormone will be there in the body more, because which will lead to a better mood during this particular season. Also in the winters, what happens is, because of darkness, or if we are in areas where there is very harsh winter that happens, there will be cloudiness, less of sunlight, because of which the melatonin production will be higher. Because of melatonin production being higher, usually depression also comes into people at this particular time. So this also, I think, will make sense for some of you to understand, as to what are the seasons which can cause depression in people. And in spring, when the sunlight is more, also the melatonin production, it eases up, and also the depression levels, they go down during this particular season. Now the environmental changes that happen during this, there is an increased intensity of sunlight, body changes are there. Okay, there is now the digestive fire would be lesser, like we have seen that in Shishira Ritu it is higher, but as we head towards the Vasanta Ritu, the digestive fire comes down, and that is why the aggravation of diseases, they starts in this particular season. You would find that there are more problems which come up related to your stomach also during this particular season. So that is why it makes sense that old grains which have been lying for 1 year almost, the consumption of those grains makes sense during this particular time. And food tasting, it has to be predominantly bitter tasted, pungent and astringent, because they are lighter for digestion. Okay. And drinking liquids which honey mixed with water, it is recommended. Now these are all different therapies which I have mentioned here, which are used by Vaidyas, the Vaman therapy, the Dhumpanas therapy, but these are very specific and they have to be done by a Vaidya only, under the guidance of a Vaidya. But all these things are taken up so that the body gets prepared to handle whatever diseases can come up during this seasonal change. Now in the Grishma Ritu, also the next Ritu, which is after Vasant, we come to Grishma, that is will start from mid-May to mid-July. Okay, so that is the time when the intensity of sunlight is at its peak, and the body will lose a lot of its hydration, moisture, all the changes that will happen in the body, and the hydration becomes one important factor during this particular time. And further, the fire of the body, the digestive fire, will go down, the bala will be reducing. Okay. And because of this also, the vata dosha will start accumulating at this time. So there is more of, if you say vata dosha in the digestive system, you can find that there can be bloating happening. If anybody is consuming too much of heavy foods during this season, then it will lead to bloating and indigestion. Okay, so that is why always in the Grishma Ritu, the diet that will be recommended would be more of swadu or sweet. Sweet, now madhur rasa, it doesn't actually mean that it has to be sugary foods, but there are a lot of other foods also which are sweet in nature. So that also come under this particular diet. The diet has to be cooling or sheetal. Dravya or liquid diet is mostly preferred, and also little bit of unctuous or oily foods have to be taken, because there would be a kind of dryness that will be coming into the body at this time. So only to handle that, the unctuous foods are suggested. The churned foods, ghee, milk, rice, all these can be consumed, but fermented drinks, okay, like wine, rum, or any other such drinks should be taken in very less quantity at this particular season. And usually we will say that you stay indoors or keep yourself cool, or you apply chandan or sandalwood paste to your body to keep yourself cool and to give you that cooling feeling during this season. So even vetiver, which we call khaskhas, is also used during this time to be kept. Water can be kept cool, and also for cooling one's body. So similarly, there are different things that are suggested here which can be used for keeping cool. So here, too much of salty foods, too much of sour foods, pungent and hot foods, hot means spicy foods here, should be avoided. Okay, because already the digestive power is very low, so the body will not be able to handle these foods at that particular time. And that is why you will find that the BP rises up very easily during this season. And for to negate out that, again we will say that the salty food consumption should be lesser during the hot season. Exercise also is to be avoided during this season, because there is less strength in the body. Now already when the body is getting weaker, if we do on top of that, we push it and we start doing vigorous exercise, you can well imagine as to what that body is going through. And then the immunity of the body will get affected during that season. So also, loss of fluids are there, is there in the form of sweat during summer, and liquids are more preferred. Also, more carbohydrate rich foods like rice, which are easy to digest and they can provide quick energy, is advised during this season. More of fruits, fresh fruits, if a person can have that, also will be helping. In Ayurveda there is even guidance as to what kind of meat should be consumed during the summer season. And if anybody is from drier places like Rajasthan or areas like that, you would understand that there are other animals from drier regions. They would be more stronger and lighter to digest during this season. So meat of that particular animal is suggested in according to Ayurveda in the summer season. Now the next season that we come to is the rainy season, or which is from mid July to September, mid September. So now this we have crossed the Adana Kala. So we have now come into Dakshinayan, okay, which is the Visarga Kal. So Varsha Ritu, or the rainy season, falls under that. Now what happens during this is that, because the water, it gets evaporated because of the sun that is being present, and the agni in the body is uh, you know getting vitiated in this season also. So what we have to do is that, again, honey in drinks and foods can be used, or foods which are dominant in the amla taste, lavana taste, snigdha taste, they can be consumed in cold morning hours to combat the vitiated vata dosha which will be there setting up right now. Also, the grains which are there for 1 year can be consumed as part more of water being put in the grains, so that it becomes even lighter for consumption. And the meat of animals from grasslands can be consumed in this particular season, again because grasslands being green in nature, having more water in that area, it is more appropriate to have something from that particular area coming in for the meat consumption. Now, in particular, if we are talking about the lifestyle, again, they can be dry medicated powders are there which can be rubbed on the body, which can help during this season of rainy season. Then there are medicated pastes that come which can be applied on this body to take care of the growths that happen, the fungal growths, the bacterial growths during this particular season is very easy to happen. So for that reason, there is also a drink which comes as fermented honey drink, which is consumed during this season, which can also lead to taking care of fungal and bacterial infections that happen in the body in this particular time. Now, exercise as well as sexual intercourse will say it leads to vata aggravation, and since the body is weaker in this season, it should be avoided. Now, next, what comes is the Sharad Ritu, or the autumn season, which is from mid September to mid November. Now, usually, again, as the autumn comes, we would find that it is the last season before which again the bala picks up. So, the bala is basically moderate again in this season, and it would be picking up after this when the Hemant Ritu comes. So, it will again be heated up, and then it will cause a vitiation of the Pitta dosha. Pitta dosha will be rising during this time. So, foods that are dominant in again the madhur taste, that is sweet taste, lagu, which is light to digest and which is cooling, also little bitter in taste, would be helping in managing the pitta dosha during this time. Now there are some therapies with the Vedyas will be recommending, that is where the therapies like Virechana and also Raktamokshana, which is there, and consuming Tikta Sarpi, which is a bitter medicated ghee, which is done with Haritaki. If you've heard about the Haritaki herb which is used, so it is a medicated ghee which is done with that, and it can be consumed during this season. And exposure to moon rays during night time is helpful in this season because it helps in healing the body. And again, consuming meat of animals from marshy land would make sense. Also, taking alkaline drinks or substances, or taking dahi or curd, again daytime sleeping can be avoided during this particular season. Now there is a concept of ritu sandhi. Now what does ritu sandhi means? Ritu sandhi is a small period of combination of two different ritus. The junction period where two ritus are combining together, there is a transition of one to another. So the final few days of the previous and the beginning few days of the upcoming season, that is approximately 14 days. Here the body itself will adapt its to the stressors of the incoming seasonal changes if we keep ourselves aligned to the nature's rhythm. That is the first and foremost requirement that the body has. from us. The specific regime for this period is calculated in, to help in smooth changeover from one to another. Gradual shift of diet and lifestyle practices has to be done, and also it prevents indigestion and also keeps our immunity at a higher level against diseases which happens due to seasonal changes. Now these can be some of the takeaways for you today. First of all, try to understand as to what is the software of your body, or the employees who are there, for whom you would be taking this program forward. So they can do a simple analysis of what is the vata, pitta and kapha in their body, so that they can understand that if a person is more prone to certain changes or certain diseases which can happen during the seasonal changes. So that itself will be an awareness, a knowledge which can be given to them, so that they become wary of it whenever the transition happens of the season. Also, they can observe the changes in their body during the transition of the ritus. Whatever guidelines have been given here, you can try to implement these guidelines suggested during these transitional phase, so that you are in aligned to your Ritucharya. And if there are any issues that are need to be addressed, then it should be addressed by a Vaidya only. So that has to be kept in mind. So now I'm open for any questions if you have from your side. How to balance all three doshas? See, it is first you have to identify as to what is the constitution for a particular body. And when we talk about balancing doshas, there are certain recommendations in terms of diet recommendations and lifestyle. When we tell that, okay, a particular dosha has got aggravated for you, so you have to take foods which do not aggravate that dosha further. So there are certain guidelines that we give to balance out them. Any other questions?
Ma'am, can you please suggest some tips on how to incorporate this into the corporate workplace? Like a little suggestion, like how a person who works 9 to 5 can
See,
just
first of all,
incorporate.
as I know there are certain requirements from the corporates in terms of time commitment and all. But first, first is the thing that the circadian rhythm has to be followed generally, like from a daily perspective. If you talk to me, that has to be followed. And in that, when we are talking about the Ritucharya, certain changes can be done in the workplace in terms of the food that is given, okay, the activities that can be done for employees um, in specific seasons, which can help them in taking care of their body according to that. Okay, how to
Okay.
identify what kind of body we have? See, usually we have a questionnaire which we generally give to assess as to what is the predominance of the doshas in your body. But see, any if you ask me, a person who is extremely thin in nature and who doesn't put on much of weight easily would be a person who's having vata dominance in the body. A person who is able to digest everything and all, who doesn't get much of digestive issues happening, would usually have a pitta dominance in the body. Kapha dominance person usually are more, they have heavier bodies and a heavier body structure. So because the kapha is more in their body, the connective tissues and all, so that is a kapha dominance. But again, there is a questionnaire that we have which can help you in analyzing as to what kind of bodies do people have. This can be an exercise which can be done for teams also, in the workplace, to understand as to what predominance of people are there, because there is a very good understanding with in relation to the the nature of a person, the adaptability of a person, the kind of stress that they can, the amount of stress that they can handle is also related to the kind of constitution that they have in the body. So when, if you do this kind of an exercise with your employees, I think it would be a great insight into what each person's nature is. And also it will give you an understanding as to what would be the main problems that they can come up with when the season changes happen. Any other question?
Ma'am, whatever patterns and you gave us during the session, is that does that apply for all the age group? Like, is there any, like, for kids the Ritucharya is different? Is there anything like that?
See, that's an interesting question, Bhavna, because our see, each body's type constitution gets decided mostly when a baby is born. Okay,
Yeah.
but again, during each age groups, as we age, the child, if you ask me, what is the nature of a child? A child would be one which would be actively moving around mostly.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so usually we'll say that there would be vata dominance in childhood.
Okay.
Okay, now as a person moves towards adulthood, again it would become dependent on the what kind of lifestyle are they leading, whether it can lead to vata dominance or kapha dominance in them. Okay, and usually as we age and move towards our elderly population, we would find that again they would have vata dominance happening in them. And
Okay.
that is why usually most joint problems, they happen during the aged population. They would be facing all the bones issues, the joint issues, because of the vata dominance again happening in them. Okay,
Okay.
so the
Yeah.
food also needs to be changed accordingly. The same kind of food cannot be partaken by people who are in the like mid-age group and then elderly group.
Okay, so diet also differs.
Diet also differs, because each diet, the kind of diet that they consume will be affecting the body constitution, because the body eventually is getting made out of whatever the raw ingredients you are giving it from outside.
Okay, ma'am. So the diet differs according to the season as well as the age group.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. If anybody else has any more questions, they can unmute themselves and ask it, or else can just put in the chat.
You can always, send your queries or questions to Bhavna or we may do any of their organization people, and then they can pass it on to me if anything comes up later on also.
Surely, ma'am. If such queries come, then I'll pass it on to you so that it can be solved.
Sure, Bhavna. So, can we take leave now?
I think so, ma'am. That's all for today. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this enlightening session. It was really very interesting, something different, which doesn't happen usually, and very informative, actually. It's very different and interesting to know about all of this.
See,
Uh,
I just understand one thing, that we are just what is extension of the nature outside, which goes inside in our body. Okay.
exactly.
So if we keep ourselves in tune with that, then
Mm-hmm.
our everything gets sorted out.
Yes, exactly, ma'am. Thank you so much for this session. And I thank you all, thank our participants for joining us today. And if you have any further questions, then please do let me know or send it to me personally. I will help you get it resolved. And if you would like to explore more wellness initiatives which Vimedo offers, feel free to reach out us at corporate@vimedo.com. Stay healthy, stay fit, stay connected with the nature, and have a great day. Thank you all.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye, ma'am.